I came to Wichita with Joan, and my oldest daughter Nancy was 1 year old in 1952. And I came from a small community in Ohio where the Jewish population was just minimal. So coming to Wichita was like going to a big city in terms of its Jewish population. We even had a delicatessen in those days on Douglas, where you could go in and get a sandwich or get meat for serving at home. Mm-hmm. Or Ted Gore, who was very instrumental in the building of the synagogue. He was the building chairman and the largest contributor, and the second, for that matter, largest contributor, and in the oil business, was Henry Bennett. Was small and a new facility for a congregation of about 150 members with a good Hebrew school. We had, in those days, we had a cantor, we had an educational director, we had a 3-day-a-week Hebrew school, and so we had an educational director, and we needed a good facility and one that would accommodate where people lived. So, and I was fortunate at that time, from 1959 to 1962, to be president of the congregation. And by the time 1962 rolled around, we were just about done. As I remember, it was about May of 1962 that we dedicated the synagogue and had quite a gala weekend, and that we put together with the help of, it seems like everybody in the congregation participated in one way or another.
The person that had the biggest impact on me was Rabbi Norman Bernhardt, who was in the rabbi of the synagogue in the late 50s, early 60s. And I remember that I was one of the first bat mitzvahs at our shul, which was in 1963. And he had already left to go someplace else. And my parents were kind enough that the one bat mitzvah present I wanted was for Rabbi Norman Bernhardt to come back for my bat mitzvah. So I can say that probably had the single biggest impact on me. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Shirley Lighton and Shirley Lebo are just standouts in my mind. Mm-hmm. I think nationwide there was a movement for girls to have bat mitzvahs, and our synagogue was one of the, I don't know where it was nationally, but took up the mantle. It was different than what you see now with bat mitzvahs, where it was really just some prayers on Friday night. Mm-hmm. Girls didn't yet participate, whether it was in a women's minyan, or as synagogues have become more inclusive of female participation, it would be a full-on, there would be no distinction between the bar and bat mitzvahs, but at that time it was a huge step forward for a girl to have a bat mitzvah. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a really big deal.
For me, I think the feeling of community that existed in my childhood, and walking in and every single person knowing your name and asking you how school was and how the week was, is a warm feeling that really, for me, represents what growing up in Wichita was. And the synagogue, I think, was the perfect counterbalance to the home in which I grew up in, where a love of Judaism was what was important and prioritized. And when we went to the synagogue, it just reinforced everything that we learned at home in just the most loving and kind way. Both of us have such incredibly fond memories of going to Hebrew school, and how we were so happy when it was the day of the week, when it was our Hebrew school day. And I know that probably some of you listening to this are skeptical, but for us, it was totally true. That was a fun, joyous, wonderful place to be.
So I did have a similar experience. I loved Hebrew school. I loved the pre-classroom experience also, down in the basement. And I remember our teachers wrangling us to come back upstairs. But I loved Hebrew school. I had a wonderful time. It was different in Wichita. The teachers knew me as an extended part of their family, and I felt that. I felt that I could trust and listen to my teachers, not just as educators, but sort of extended family. So for me, the best example of that is Shirley Lighton, who Nancy mentioned, who, knowing me for so many years in Shull, suggested where she thought I would fit in college. And I went there, thankfully was accepted there, but went to the University of Pennsylvania sight unseen because Shirley Lighton thought I would fit in there, and how accurate she was. And also Shirley Lebo. She and her husband Bert would come in with a guitar and sing to us. I mean, I can hear, they taught us a song called Hashmini. I can hear the tune in my head, Hashmini, yeah. And I listened to that song and them sing. They brought not just songs from the liturgy, but songs from Israel to us, and made us feel that connection to Israeli music that was so important to me. And then the synagogue also, as my life extended, represented the place that I went to the mikveh before my wedding, the place I was married. I mean, it was, as Amy mentioned, an extension of my home life was my extended family home at the synagogue.
Not only was it an extension of our home life at the synagogue, but I am to this day best friends with girls at the time and women now who went to the synagogue. And so not only does it provide an extension of all the adults, but the children of all those adults are in my present life. And I think that that is a gift that Wichita gave us that is immeasurable. And we all have that common experience. When we all married people from different parts of the country, they didn't quite understand what a whole weekend of activities was like, because it's not necessarily that way in other parts of the country. But we would have it no other way, because that's just, your family wanted to celebrate everything with you, whether you were blood relatives or not. You felt like you were.
Family. Yeah, definitely that family feel.
Yeah, I want to come back to something Nancy said, which has stayed with me, stays with me now, and it's where each person sat. And long after I left Wichita, when I would go to services in my own synagogue, each week I would reflect, especially where my mother sat. But just as Nancy said, I go in my mind, in my synagogue, translating, well, this is where this person's at, this is where this person's at. So long after you're gone, I think the memories and being able to picture Shabbat services at Wichita stay with you in whatever community you live in.
That's good.
I didn't want to be married in any fancy place on either coast of the United States. I wanted to be married at our synagogue in our community.
Part of the weekly ritual that we had was to come into the classroom before our teacher and put the blue JNF tzedakah box above his desk. And each week, each of the boys in my class would throw an eraser, hoping they would knock down the tzedakah box and have it land on the teacher's desk. And each week, we put into a pot another nickel, because we wanted to pay the person who ultimately had success in knocking the tzedakah box down and literally scaring to death the teacher. So just want to say I'm not proud of it, but I did win the pot because it's my eraser that ultimately landed on the desk. So secretly, I'm kind of proud of that.
It's definitely.
Amy and I were reflecting on this before this conversation, that we spent an awful lot of time in the girls' bathroom, because that was a really great place for sort of the chatter that girls do, especially when they want to get out of a particularly long part of the service. And we spent a lot of time gathered.
So you spent more time in the girls' room than the service.
Girls' bathroom, that is for sure. There wasn't anybody in Wichita who didn't understand that you had to stand up and be counted, because there was no hiding. We knew every single person in every part of the community and who they were and where they were. And particularly the role modeling of my father and my mother was leading the way in that, of understanding that every one of us had an obligation to lead the community. And that was your responsibility if you wanted the community to thrive and to flourish. And that certainly has impacted everything I've done in my life, that you have to stand up. And if you're lucky enough to be in the position to be the person to lead and to be the person to give, that is your role and responsibility to ensure a flourishing Jewish community. And that was taught to us by our parents, taught to us by living in the Wichita community. It's what I hope everybody will do in Wichita, in the synagogue and this new community center organization and community, is stand up and enable this community to go forward and to flourish, because everybody has to do it together, everybody.
That really was part of what being in Wichita was, is that you saw that what you do matters. And I've kept that with me always, is the warmth that comes from being a part of a community like Wichita. And the fact that every single person has dignity and deserves respect and is part of what makes a greater Jewish community more wonderful. And I think that that was a message that was taught to me in Wichita, and just trying to bring the essence of that warmth to each of the responsibilities that I have today. What I hope for the Wichita community going forward, I would say, is the understanding that each person makes a difference, and by far you get much more from being a part of something than what you have to give. And the gift of being able to be an essential part of the future of the Wichita Jewish community is a special gift that I hope all of the people will cherish going forward, just as we have in the past.
Thank you.
That I feel that Mom and Dad both taught us that you can't take anything for granted, and that if you want the Jewish community to be thriving and strong for your contemporaries and your descendants, then you have the responsibility to make sure that that's going to happen. And I think we took that lesson to all the cities that we have lived in. And you can't rely on anybody else. If you think it's important, you have to be the one that steps up and does it. And I think I really think it is remarkable, and I'm very proud of both of my sisters and my brother, who took the lessons and have really done it on a very large scale. And I think that is a credit to Mom, to Dad, and to Wichita. Our mother was an extraordinary person. Our father is also. It is named the Joan S. Beren Wichita Jewish Community Center. And I would hope that those who knew her and those who know about her would remember that there wasn't any job that was too small or too little for her to do, and that she cared about every person. And it's really what Amy and Julie are saying about how we felt of the people that were our parents' contemporaries. And now I would hope that everyone would also take care and pay attention to each other. And you learn more by doing than by watching. And you develop friendships and a community by what you do together. And Mother always thought that she was changed by Wichita for the good.
I want to tell the community of Wichita to be optimistic. In life, you have struggles at various times in your lives, and congregations and federations often have struggles. Things happen that come about that are beyond your control. But then, once you recognize it, there are actions you can take that make things better. And I'm hopeful that Wichita will have a bright future, that its Jewish community will once again thrive, both the Ahavath Achim congregation and Temple Emanu-El, and that their futures will be bright, that additional Jewish people will move to the city, and that once again the Hebrew school will be full of children, and that from Wichita will come people who will lead the Jewish community of America and the Jewish community of the world to greater advances and to more success and to happiness, and I wish you all well, and I'll do my best to, as long as I'm around, to be a part of your achievements for the future. Good luck.
When we came to Wichita, Buzz was going to work for the Wichita Clinic as a dermatologist. And Ray and Bernice Steckel were shirt-tail relatives of mine through my sister's marriage. And they introduced us to everybody, especially people at Hebrew Congregation, which is where they were for many years. And through them, we became very friendly with Rabbi Abe and Vivian Mann. And that was a long, strong, good friendship that we had for many years until they left town.
You know, as a kid growing up, I don't think I really appreciated at the time that sort of a, you know, being a kid, a Jewish kid from Wichita, you're sort of in a small club,
Yeah.
right? The kids I hung out with, a lot of them were Jewish kids I knew, whether it was from Sunday school or Hebrew school or things we did. You know, Craig Cohen and Ken Ruby and Leah Gross, and then, you know, our friends, people we hung out with, the Marcuses, the Baxes down the street. It was just like all of my memories as a kid. I didn't really think of them as much about Jewish memories, but they all involve Jewish kids who I grew up with here. Getting involved in youth group, you know, with Mofty, my group of friends kind of expanded beyond Wichita and included Kansas City, and still very good friends with you know, that crew as well. Of, you know, the Wichita Jewish community, it's just so much about, you know, what my identity is as a Jewish person. And I don't think I really appreciated it that much as a kid, but I do as an adult.
Right.
You know, now I'm seeing my kids experience everything that you know, I experienced. They've got Jewish friends, they've got that they're close with. They've had all the experiences. You know, we've celebrated so many simchas as a family and an extended family here in Wichita, and my kids have been a part of that. So it's been really, really exciting and really, you know, really special for me to see just that Wichita Jewish identity is so much of who I am. And it's a Wichita Jewish identity, not just a Jewish identity, if that makes sense. So.
I volunteered as much as I could with the Jewish community, having 3 children under the age of 4, which was challenging, I would say. But we did it, and I still love it, and I love that my kids had good experiences here, and I hope that we gave them something from Wichita to take with them in their now adult lives.
There's so much of what has happened historically that has been, you know, in one building or the other, or one congregation or the other, but, you know, the kids who I remember and think about, you know, they were Jewish kids in Wichita. They weren't Jewish kids who were members of Hebrew Congregation or Congregation Emanu-El.
Right. Well, it was a wonderful thing that Joan Beren did when she was able to bring the 2 congregations together under one roof. That we tried years ago to do that, but we tried to do it with one spiritual leader, and that obviously didn't work. But because Joan had foresight to see the potential of having the best of both congregations together, I think has been a real blessing and a challenge and a gift to the Jewish people in Wichita.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to this. I think Dad would be very proud of it. I wish he were there. And well, I talk to him all the time, but he's always here with us. And I think he would be very happy to know that our community is growing as a community rather than 2 separate entities.
Wichita it's a special place. It's a special Jewish community, and I think I certainly felt a duty to give back to the community, but that wasn't a hard duty or a hard thing to step forward. I mean, I think we are where we are because people volunteer, people contribute their time, people take the extra effort to get there. And when I think about what it's taken for the WJCC to come together, certainly, the importance of the generous contribution that Joan Beren and the Beren family have made. And frankly, there's a financial contribution there, but there's also been a tremendous amount of time from the Beren family as well. The tremendous amount of time and financial contribution that just everybody from this community has made. It's been huge, and it's exciting for me just to see in every aspect of what we've done, people have been working together, across the aisle. We've made sure that we have representation from all the organizations, whether it's AAC, CE, whether it's, we've had input from Federation, the school is here. There's so much about having a community center and kind of, not tearing down walls, building a home for us, which has been really exciting. My hope, and it's a hope, but I don't think it's a hard one to see happening, is that we can keep growing as a community, just like we have been. And there's less focus on, ironically, for as great of a facility as we have and we've invested in, there's less focus on the building, and there's more focus on the congregations and the community. That's my hope, and I know we'll see that happen.
I'm very proud of the fact that Buzz and I created an environment and an atmosphere in our home that would bring our children to this point. And I'm especially proud that Daniel, of course, remained here, and that he has jumped right in and taken.
Helen's here too.
And Helen's here, and I wish David would be here, but it's okay. We're all going to be okay, but it's for the investment that we have in our children, and that the investment that our children have in this community that's going to make Jews in Wichita thrive.
It's just been really cool to me as we've been putting the WJCC together, kind of at all phases. I mean, this process, well, I suppose this process has been like a 60-year process, but the last 5 years kind of in earnest on this version, and just every step along the way, there's been so much collaboration, cooperation between both of our congregations. And, for as much as, there are, expectations or legends or, views that, hey, they're going to have a problem with this or they're going to have a problem with that. When we've really sort of sat down and tried to work through issues, the issues fall away pretty quickly, and we've compromised pretty quickly. And there's so many examples of that throughout this effort, and there continue to be. I mean, from elements of the building to how we're setting things up to how we're using the space. I mean, there have just been no problems that it's not problems that are insurmountable. It's like they're not even problems when we start talking about them, which is just encouraging. I mean,
that's what it's all about, is can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
And we are doing it. And we
do.
do.
Yeah.
How about that?
And that's kind of the thing when, I think when our congregations have been a few blocks apart or miles apart or whatever, it's a lot easier to sort of dream up things in your head about, oh, this will be a problem for this congregation, or that'll be a problem for that congregation. And when people sit down, we sort of realize, we're all pretty reasonable people. We all have a lot of things that we want to see that are important to us, but we all have a lot of respect for each other, and it's not really hard to.
That's the key, I think,
to get
having mutual respect of each other, the way we have practiced Judaism in our own milieu, but now we're together and it's going to be great.
We were very successful in Dodge City and Garden City, Kansas during the Depression. But because of Hebrew Congregation, my family wanted to move to Wichita. Hebrew Congregation, when I was growing up, used to have picnics at Watson Park, and they'd have the little kids ride ponies, and the teenage girls would show off the boys, and the boys would play baseball and show off the girls. And they were very successful showing off to each other because your family would finally say, please don't say anything bad to anyone in our congregation because they're probably related. The most famous thing that happened to me was my bar mitzvah. When I was bar mitzvah, the community was showing off to each other, and my family decided that I should do the whole bar mitzvah. But there was a problem. I couldn't read Hebrew. So my family had me for a year listen to a tape, and I did the whole bar mitzvah on tape. When I had my bar mitzvah, the rabbi stood on a box instead of the congregant because I was 6'4", and I went through my whole bar mitzvah, got finished, went downstairs to where they had the food, took all the brownies off the table, put them in a sack, and took a bus and went home.
So you skipped the Kiddush after your own bar mitzvah because you had just had enough.
I had had enough.
Yeah, that's kind of the way you still are with some things. You can go a very long time, and when you've had enough, you'll take the brownies and go home, huh?
That's right. In 1980, I took over the cemetery. They had $10,000 in perpetual care. We decided that we needed to bring in more money. We were successful. We helped the congregation by giving them large sums of money.
I remember sitting in services one night, and we had put our middle son Ford down in the nursery because he couldn't sit still. And he came up and he had taken a rubber ink stamp and stamped his entire face. And Joanna and I looked at each other and we just got up with Ford and went home to wash his face and try and get it off. We need the community of Jews in Wichita to be together. We're much stronger as one. And to not pay or not spend money on redundancy, such as 2 buildings, is a no-brainer to me. We worship differently. We need to pray differently. We're different spiritually, but we're all the same. And we can share a building. And I think that we've proved that, and we're going to continue to prove that. Because one of the most important things to me when I participated in making the WJCC, or helping it come to fruition, was that I had a need for a minyan when I was saying Kaddish for my father, and I couldn't get 10 people together. For the future, we always should be able to say anybody in the Congregation Emanu-El or Hebrew congregation can always have and plan on having a minyan here. In Hebrew school with Shirley Lighton as a teacher, with a Dr. Pepper in one hand, a cigarette in the other, and the fact that gravity and the law of gravity were suspended in this building, because she would have the longest ash you could ever see, and it never would drop. She'd have the Dr. Pepper, and back then she smoked in the building, and she would have this cigarette and the ash would never fall off.
One of the most important things that I've ever done with my wife in this congregation was that we took over the Break the Fast. We have the Break the Fast for the last 25 years, and what we've done is we brought the whole community together after Yom Kippur so that they could have a meal together. We were a complete community, and that was why we did it.
I can remember the Yom Kippur, that the Yom Kippur War started, and everybody whispering in services. And I went out not quite understanding the totality of the invasion of Israel that day. I was a small boy, I think I was 8, 9 years old. And I went out with the older boys and we sat in, I think, Milton Berger's car, but it could have been Sheldon Berger's car, and we listened to it on the radio. We were listening to the news, trying to get the news of what was happening in Israel. I can remember the high holidays such as that when there was no parking. People we'd run out of parking space. They'd be parked along the road coming into the building, and because every space was needed, because we were so vibrant. And we're hoping that that comes back again. We're going to be here with a beautiful building, with wonderful programming by both congregations and the Federation now also. And goal is for this to truly be a Jewish community center. Maybe not with the swimming pool and the workout room, but with everything else. Spiritually, educating your mind, we want to be there, and so we can facilitate that. Now, we have helped make this one house of worship for the Jews of Wichita, and I'm very proud of our community.
The temple was showing off, and they wanted to play football with us as an annual football game. And what happened was we played the first year the annual football game, and because I had played enough in high school and college, the score was 63-0. That was the end of the annual football game. I don't think that needs to go in there.
No, why did you say it? I told you not
No,
to.
you brought it up, so
Oh, well, I bring up other things. Okay.
I have a lot of memories of Wichita. After all, my whole life has been spent here. I was born here. I had my bar mitzvah here. I remember wearing my three-piece brown suit that my parents bought for me. We don't have to wear three-piece suits anymore. I remember Mr. Stone's class playing Find the Word with our class. Scott Hurstein, Neil Barnett, Terry Klein, Kerry Wolfberg, Eva Goodman. You know, we were a small but motley crew back in those days. Of course, Cantor Tatelbaum taught me my bar mitzvah. We used to play pool down in my basement, and that was fun. That was the way he got me motivated to study. My sisters were married here in Wichita. Remember those days. My kids had their bar and bat mitzvahs here. Those were wonderful occasions and ones that Ellen and I will treasure forever. And of course, my mom was buried here, and her funeral was right here in this building. So a lot of memories. The opening of the Joan Beren Jewish Community School was a tremendous day in our community. Sophie came and sang with the Shabbatones, and that was wonderful for her to come back and give back to our community. And then probably I would say tonight is a day that we'll all remember. The Jewish community is here and strong in Wichita. We're coming together to support each other and to dedicate an important milestone in the history of our community. Living as a Jewish person in Wichita is not easy to do. There's a lot of sacrifice and commitment that is entailed, and sometimes it can seem overwhelming to be Jewish here in Wichita. But I think over the years, Ellen and I have grown to appreciate the commitment, the dedication, and the sacrifice that comes with being Jewish here in Wichita. We're not the first Jews in the world who've had to sacrifice for their tradition and their religion. I think if Mom were sitting here this evening, she would tell all of us, like she did many times, that it's important for us to prioritize Judaism. If we don't do it, nobody else will. I think she would appreciate and be very happy with what is going on this evening, that our community came together, that we pooled our resources, and that we pooled our own energies to come together as a community to make tonight happen. She used to say that you have to build something, for the next generation. You have to leave something behind, and I think tonight is a good representation of that. So my hope for our community is that we can continue, each one of us, to prioritize Judaism in our lives, that we continue to come together as a community, so that in 60 years from now, we can look back and say we did all we could to sustain and make possible Jewish life here in Wichita. And with God's help, and all of us working together, this will happen.
This is something that we've been attempting for quite some time. It's been up, it's been down, but finally, with the help of Joan Beren's legacy, and Adam and Dan and all these people who really believed in it, they made it happen. And so finally now, both congregations can come together and work independently sometimes and together sometimes. And that's what makes it great. We can stay independent when we want to be and together when we need to be. Very nice. The Jewish community is made up of many different parts, but in the end, we're all Jews. And as Jews, we do have a common spirit. We're part of the same family. We are Bnei Israel, the children of Jacob, the children of Israel. And so in that way, we all trace our lineage to the same ancestors and the same values and the same heritage.
This is a wonderful, notable night for the entire Wichita Jewish community, and we represent 6 generations in the community, from Sam and Esther Kamen to Sherman and Ruth Kamen, Harlan and Rita Kamen, Sherry and Keith Alter, Adam and his wife Lane, and his 2 kids Zoe and Riley. 6 generations, and this is a wonderful, notable event for the future of the Jewish community, and we're so thrilled to be here.
Mazel Tov, Wichita.
This is really the beginning, not the end, of a project, and our family is 5th generation. My grandfather, Sam Zellman, came here from the old country, and after the war, my mother and father, who met after concentration camps, came here, and then my brother and my sister and myself, and my wife and I have had 2 lovely boys who are married, and now they have their own children, our grandchildren, and we can only hope that this is going to be a long, successful marriage between the congregations on a joint campus. And so Mazel Tov, Wichita. As a past president of the Congregation Emanu-El, I can remember during my presidency when we had talks about, can the 2 congregations coexist, can they merge, and it's been a long haul. I mean, there's been a lot of past presidents and a lot of people that have tried, and I think what we missed was the importance of being ourselves, but yet being able to coexist under one roof and continue to do certain things together while maintaining our identity as separate entities. And I think that was the key to this successful venture.
I love it. It's very energetic, so many people here. It's got a very positive vibe.
Did you think this would happen? Did you think we would get to this night, really, ultimately?
I thought we would, but it took a long time. It's been about 20 years for me, because I've lived here for 20 years, but it's obviously a lot longer than that. But it's a great feeling, like Kristen said, so we're happy to be here.
I feel like with more people in one place, you're more likely to come, because you get that fear of missing out if you're not there when so many people are there, as opposed to nobody's going to be there, I don't want to go. So I feel like everybody being together has a more, just the feeling of it is positive, instead of they have this going on at that place, or the synagogue has this. And so I just feel like the whole togetherness is very positive.
We are very excited tonight because we have both congregations and the Mid-Kansas Jewish Federation under one roof. The roof that build new relationship, new beginnings for a lot of people, for both communities, and hopefully from that moment on, we're going to be doing more things together, moving forward together as Jewish community in Wichita.
It was a very great event today. Very thankful to Ellen and Adam Beren and John Beren for putting it in, kind of, and making it all happening. And hopefully this will put our communities closer together. And people, like Joan Beren said, people would put their Judaism kind of ahead, like would be, I don't know, would celebrate more traditions and be more Jewish in a way.
Very, very good. But it was so nice to see the kids from the religious schools. They all came up and they were involved, and the speakers were all wonderful. And I've never seen Adam cry before. I've never seen him. Obviously, he was very emotional in terms of Mom, and I was one of the people that she honored in terms of going to Israel, in terms of paying for us. And she was fantastic. She picked the best places for us, and the best speakers, and the best everything in Israel. It was absolutely fantastic. So this family has been a major force in the Wichita community. We're very, very fortunate that they're here, and they've done so very, very much. We're very, very fortunate. It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I didn't put in all the work that everybody else did, okay? But so I came for the first time, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was fantastic. You know, I mean, that was a huge turnout. I was, you know, I guess pleasantly surprised. I had no idea there was going to be this many people here. It was great, and the mayor that came out, and it's nice to see how much support we have, and not just from amongst ourselves, but from the community as a whole. It's really nice.
I feel relieved that all of the hard work of the past 5 years has come to this moment of celebration, and that it's like a big exhale of joy and satisfaction for all of the work that went into making tonight and the future possible. How do you feel?
I think it's good when the Jewish community comes together, and I know that I'm certainly not aware of all the dynamics in the community because we're so new, but it's just wonderful to see everybody together and working together.
To me, the very, very best part was the music. I just thought the music was wonderful. I mean, the three family members were super, but the religious music too was equally just lovely, just lovely. I got kind of teary.
That was really, and I thought really that Dan did a wonderful job of saying kind of the three elements. The people's had that there had been so many hard lessons learned, and that everybody worked together, and that his mother really did have a spirit that he called on, and it's her spirit that he's really trying to invoke to create a community. And actually, Mallory was just telling me this yesterday, but when she converted, actually when Joan heard that she was converting,
She ran across the Dillon's parking lot to give me a hug. And that to me was just that's who she was.
yeah, it really, and I think that it was just right on to invoke her spirit to create the sense of community that everyone is hoping will thrive. And it won't be easy, and I think it's going to be, I think, it will be stronger if each group stands on its own and then discovers the commonalities in our differences, among our differences. And I think that openness came through too, and I thought that was one of the very encouraging things about tonight. So, and your video, your montage was just outstanding. I don't think so. So it was excellent.
Yeah.
And I do have to say the food was good.
Oh yeah, the food was good. And the desserts were, the babka, oh my.
It was very good.
Yeah.
So, great job.
The community joining together in one building really is something super, super special. Actually, my great-grandfather was the first president of the synagogue, I believe in 1930. And so that is something that's held very close to our family. So we're just really, really happy that there is one common facility where we can bring our Jewish heritage together, whether it is the Reform, Conservative, Orthodox. We're all Jews, and right here in Wichita is something that's really special to our family. We've been here since 1907, I believe, is when my great-grandfather migrated from Vienna, Austria to Wichita. And so there's actually 5 generations of Fruhofs that are in Wichita right now, and it's something really, really special. The Beren family has been very, very generous, and we appreciate everything, their vision and everything that they have done to bring this to reality. And so our family's just really, really excited about being a part of this. My wife Pam helped considerably on the art committee and doing a lot of things that to help beautify the facility that shows the collaboration between the two Jewish organizations in Wichita. And so we're really, really proud and really happy to be a part of this. So tonight was really something exciting and special. The talent and of course the food, we can't let that go by.
It's amazing. I mean, it has been
so long in the coming that we are so incredibly grateful. I mean, this is important. It's important to our children. It's really important to the next generation.
And the fact that this evening came together so well, with so much effort, so seamlessly, is fantastic. It's really amazing to see the community pull together like this, the community decide to come together as one for an evening to kick off, decades of more togetherness.
And also, it's a recognition by people that are outside the Jewish community about the importance of diversity in our community, about the importance of recognition that what is important in this community is diversity, is the recognition that what is different among us makes us stronger together.
Give us your thoughts.
First, I want to say Mazel Tov, Wichita. And then I have to say I wish Joel was here to see it. And I wish my present husband was well enough to come and see it, but I'm so proud of this community, the Jewish community. And it's going to work. It's going to work. We're becoming good family, good friends.
It feels amazing. So I think what my biggest takeaway is that when you talk about Joan Beren and her legacy, it seems like a bigger thing, but when you mention her name, the table stops, everyone stops with their bossiness or their opinion or their whatever, and everyone starts getting along. It's like you drop a Joan Beren bomb in the playground and everyone starts playing nicely together. And I think that this is such the reflection of that. Everybody wanted to come and be together and happy and joyful. And in these times when people are feeling kind of really negative and separate, to show the world that the Jewish community can really be strong and amazing together, it was just perfect.
It's wonderful, wonderful. I've been in this community since I was 4 years old. It's one of the most exciting things to happen to Wichita, Kansas. Mazel Tov, Wichita, Kansas. I'm honored and flattered to have known the Beren family my entire semi-adult life. I think this is a wonderful, wonderful event, and I'm so glad that Tiffany and I could be here.